Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Sunday Morning Huckleberries.
Yay.
Yay!
I'm excited about today's topic.
I am Tyler Huckleberry, and this is Jennifer Dubell Huckleberry, and we're in love.
Do you want me to start it?
Okay, go ahead.
So I had to convince Tyler into this one, but we're going to talk about some of our passions and interests and where they came from, and then how we're still interested in them or how they're a part of our lives today. I'm excited.
Okay.
Because I'm a nerd. Where are you going?
I'm leaving.
Oh. And that's it. Goodbye. We have no passions. Life is hard. Babe.
Oh, wow, you're beautiful.
It's okay. The stick is going like this.
Perfect.
Okay. But if you think it looks better now...
Yay!
Do you want me to start or you want to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, those of you who really know me know that I am obsessed. There's no other word for it. With mainly ancient Egypt, but it also goes into ancient Greece. And I don't know if you know how this started. Do you know how it started?
How did it start?
Do you know or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, in public school...
Oh. What's that?
Tyler was homeschooled. Sorry, we watched it. He sent me a joke video today about a wife making fun of a husband for being homeschooled. So that's
I took my mom to prom, but she's a good dancer.
which is always a joke that Tyler tells, not me. By the way, Tyler makes fun of himself for it. But the elementary school that I went to had an enrichment program. That's what we called it. It's
Okay.
like, what do we do with the smart kids so they don't get bored and disrupt the class?
You were a smart kid?
I'm a Ravenclaw. And the school proposed me being in it in 4th grade, but my parents wanted to wait because they thought it might be too much for me, and they didn't want me to be overwhelmed with it, because what it is they pull you out of class, and you spend a class, I don't remember exactly how long it was, doing higher education stuff. But what was cool is my enrichment teacher, we did creative writing, which was huge because there's not a lot of that in elementary school. And we studied ancient Egypt and ancient Greece, which you normally don't do in elementary school either. So I was just fascinated because that tapped right into how I love to read and write. Mm-hmm. You know, and I remember, and it was really cool that my mom helped me out with this too, when we were learning about the Greek mythology and the Greek gods and goddesses. We were all given this mask form. Like, if you see at the craft store, it's just like a face. And we had to create our own god or goddess. And I don't remember what she was the goddess of. But she was beautiful, and my mom took me, her whole face was white glitter. You know my obsession with glitter. And my mom took me to a farm that had a bunch of geese, and I used down to make her hair and stuff. So she was really pretty. I do not remember what she was the goddess of at all. I just remember what she looked like and what I made her. But that started my interest in ancient cultures. And then I started taking out books. I remember in particularly from the school library, I took out a book on Anubis, and it scared the bejeebies out of me. And I had to look under the bed before I went to sleep. But I started to read books about it, and then I'd say I came back to my obsession right around the time when you and I started dating with documentaries. If there is a documentary out there on ancient Egypt or Greece, I've watched it several times. And it's even cooler now with our advancements in film and technology, what they're able to do with like these drone shots of the temples in Egypt and different things. It's amazing. I think the way they lived is fascinating. Their beliefs, their societies, especially ancient Greece, because we attribute them to the beginnings of so many amazing things. And I randomly tell people in my lives random facts. That TikTok sound that they like made fun of, where it was like the Egyptian blah blah blah, and they used it to like make fun of people. That is me. Like, I will randomly just...
You make fun of people?
No, me. I randomly blurt out facts like, did you know that King Tut was actually Tutankhamun before he became Tutankhamun? And I'm just very excited to anybody who will listen to me about it, which there's not many. But that's okay, because there's still so many documentaries out there that I can watch and new ones coming out. And then you took me, when we had our anniversary trip to Boston, to the Tutankhamun experience. Is that what they call it?
The King Tut experience?
Oh, do not just that one. If you are into art or history in any sort of way, go do one of those, because they're cool. Like, I want to do the Monet one and the Van Gogh one, but art is a different obsession of mine. But I got this year, and I was just reading it while Tyler was making a yummy breakfast, a subscription to National Geographic History magazine. So happy. It makes me so happy.
You're adorable this morning.
No, it makes
I'm glad you're able to see this side of
it. It brings me so much joy. And
what else makes you passionate? Or are you passionate about?
I want to talk about Egyptian.
Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted. Keep going.
And every night, almost every night, sometimes if the boys are sleeping with me, we'll watch something that's more geared to their interest. But when it's just, we do a lot of sleepovers in my room during the summer. But normally I fall asleep to some sort of documentary on ancient history. It's weird because I am not into war history at all. You know, there's a lot of documentaries on the different wars. I'm not even really into colonialism or any of that, but the ancient cultures, especially now that they're starting to come out with more of ancient Mesopotamia and stuff as well. Just fascinating to me. And it's really exciting. And I think we should be taught more about them, because most of what's taught in public school systems, like, they barely touch on ancient history. It's mainly U.S. history with an agenda, which is a topic for another time. But I think there's value in learning about the ancient cultures a little bit more, and I wish we spent a little bit more time on that in public schools, because I was very blessed that I was put into that enrichment class that started all of that. Because I don't know if I would be as into it today if it wasn't for that experience in 4th or 5th grade. It was right around 4th or 5th grade that I started. I would have to ask my mom the exact, because I know they waited a year before they let me in it. But that was exciting, and that experience thing took my breath away, and even looking back at the pictures was amazing. I also think I'm really fascinated with the ancient Greeks because theater was such a part of their society. So there's that tie too. It didn't really hit my understanding until this year when I did a little bit more research into it for the classes I teach, that the whole city in ancient Greece would go and see these plays and festivals. That's huge. And so I think there might be a connection there as well of why I'm so passionate and excited about it. But yeah. And if I could go back in time, I would go back to ancient Egypt. I would have to pinpoint one, because that was such a long period of time. it's fascinating to me, and we are very obsessed with like what's going on in the world right now. And I don't want to say this the wrong way, because I do think there's a lot of great things that America has done. America's still a baby in the scheme of things as a nation compared to ancient civilizations like Egypt and Greece and Rome. And so I think I like that it helps me put things into perspective. It's just fascinating.
What else are you passionate about?
That's it.
That's it?
No. You have to talk about your passion, and then if we have more time, we'll talk about other passions. What is something you're excited about, and how did it start? Talk about coins.
Talk about coins?
Yeah.
Well, I like history too, but I'm more specific on like the coming together of America and the history of church, how that started and how it's developed over time. So those, from my upbringing, that's of interest to me. But what I'm passionate about is
coins.
What I'm passionate about is I don't want to work forever. So retirement.
Talk about coins.
Also, making sure I'm not a burden on my children when they're older.
What do you mean?
And
don't talk later, Charlie. We're podcasting.
It adds to it.
You're right. It does.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Talk about coins. No, all those things are beautiful. Yay. But
I like poetry and art. I love masterfully done things.
the reason why I want you to talk about coins is because, like, me being obsessed with ancient Egypt and Greece is like a dorky kind of collector thing.
But you don't collect anything.
Because it's expensive.
You got books.
I do have books and the subscription to the magazine, and I did the subscription to the great courses. And I want to take a free Zoom class by an Egyptologist on how to read hieroglyphics so that when we go to Egypt, I can be like, this says.
Yeah.
And then I get to touch it. No, Tyler and I really like museums.
Yeah.
And something that we share with museums is loving the paintings and the sculptures. But of course, I love the ancient civilization sections. And when we were in the Boston Museum, we were looking at this very intricate table, and Tyler was just pointing over it like, hey, look at this spot. This is pretty. And an alarm went off. Because, like, apparently if you get too close to touching things, they'll be like, don't do that. Mm-hmm. And so I want to touch the Egyptian statues so bad. I need to feel that connection to that time period so bad, but you can't. There's alarms. So that's another reason why I really want to go to Egypt, because I need to touch it and feel the energy.
Well, on that note, that goes into
coins.
My coins.
Yeah, so you understand.
So how it started was my grandmother.
On your dad's side.
Yeah, before she passed, gave me a coin collection. And I always thought it was interesting whenever we went over and she'd show me, as a kid, it's just like shiny things and that kind of thing. And then it's old and you're like, wow. And just as I've grown older, I've, added to it over time, and now like having like a colonial coin from 10 years after the Declaration of Independence was signed, before Congress, before minting. It was actually minted in a barn in Rahway, New Jersey. They were just giving copper because the British wouldn't like break change for us. They'd just send over the silver for the goods and whatever, whatever sponsoring the expansion. But so we made our own, and it's like the first time that you see E pluribus unum, which is our motto today. You'll see it on coins and dollars, which means just together we're one, or like together mighty. That's what it means. So that's cool. And then I went to like King James, who is famous for the King James Bible being commissioned, but also he was essentially the first king of Great Britain, because he brought Scotland, Ireland, France, and England together under his leadership. Well, takeover kind of. Mm-hmm. But that's also the time that William Shakespeare was putting out his best plays. Like Macbeth has imagery that's from remember the 5th of November, that V for Vendetta line. That's from the gunpowder plot of 1605, when they wanted to blow up Parliament and the king, and he capitalized on it because he's like, oh, my life was in danger, rally behind me, and people did, and he just took over more, and then commissioned people in 1607 to go to the U.S. and founded Jamestown, Virginia.
So it's interesting that I like.
So I've got coins from that.
The ancient stuff, and then you like that time period.
I like the advancement of culture. I still like ancient stuff as part of the story, but I feel like technology has advanced so fast in the last 500 years. Like the printing press and like the way people get information. It's almost sped up history during this period of time, in my mind.
Well, they also started to create within literacy and the arts like their own thing. Like Shakespeare at first, his plays were not widely accepted because he didn't follow the ancient Greek tradition of plays.
King James attended William Shakespeare's plays.
Because in that time in Europe, the plays were for the elite, not for the common man always. And it was like 100 years after that his stuff out of that area became popular, not just where he was, because certain I learned this in my first master's class, certain literary critics were like, no.
I haven't taken a master's class.
No, this stuff is groundbreaking. And that's when it really started to spread more than just where Shakespeare was.
Yeah. No, he was just a guy who was alive during that time. And then before that, there was Henry VIII, which I have a coin from his time with his face on it. That was when John Wesley and John Calvin were alive, which are big names as far as church history. So, and then he was stripping away power from the church, the Pope and everything. Because then, like cathedrals would mint money, usually the smaller periods. So the church was actually in the minting business at that time. And once he wanted his annulment from Catherine, for Anne Boleyn,
He took over the money.
He was like, okay, you can't do that anymore. And you know what? I'm the supreme leader of the church in England. And, that's too bad. And James, about 100 years later, kind of took that same mentality where he's like, no, I'm the king of the church and, y'all can, you'll be all right. I'm in charge.
You see that mirrored throughout history because Tut's dad did a similar thing because he was the famous pharaoh that said, no, we're not going to worship all the gods, we're going to worship the sun god, and that's it. And that wasn't so much just like, oh, we're going to do one god. That was a move to take a power away from the officials that worked in the temple, like the religious leaders. So you see that like mirrored throughout history, that like the kings or the pharaohs or the great leaders would try and take the power away from the religious leaders at that time for whatever their agenda was, because that's also, even though pharaohs usually always associated themselves with being gods, he was one of the first ones that was also like, no, Nefertiti and I are gods and we are pharaoh. But that only, he lived a long time though, but that was only during him. But there was a lot of religious turmoil in Egypt during that time because of how much power he took away from all the religious officials by saying, no, we are now.
Yeah, it goes further with Henry VIII because not only did he stop the minting, other than, he kind of took control of that. He's like, oh, you're going to control my like who I'm attracted to kind of thing. So you're not going to give me this annulment? All right. Well, I will ban sodomy. And what he did with that, which this is interesting, he ended up taking over and confiscating everything from monasteries because they were having the same issues that a lot of the church has today. Because they were supposed to be celibate, and that whole story, it just doesn't work well historically. So yeah, he was tearing up the church. The separation of church and state started with that Henry VIII move of making those changes, even though separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution, but there are there are protections and separations between religious freedoms and government, because they're managers of military funds, infrastructure, and then church was supposed to be the moral compass, whatever church is involved, but predominantly the Christian faith was supposed to be the moral compass. So, yeah, we like history.
But you don't actually touch your coins; they're in a protective case.
Not my
Not
my old ones.
Which I understand. That makes sense.
But I do get to see them very, very close. And
to touch something from ancient Egypt.
And I like learning all about the time period from when I have them. So I collect stories more than coins.
Well, it's interesting how you talked about the coins and how they were made in the cathedrals, and then that was taken away by the king.
They weren't ever just made there, but they made the smaller coinage.
It's interesting how you can see throughout history, like how I brought up, it wasn't Thutmose. I don't know what number. I'm pretty sure it was Tut's dad, because I have Ptolemy on the brain because we were talking Greek, but that's the end of Egypt, not back in Tut time. Because I may have said Ptolemy, and I'm sorry if I said that. I think it's Thutmose.
I think we'll all forgive you.
Anyway, it's important. No, but he was a ruler that, I don't know the exact reason why, but he took the power away from the religious leaders. And then you saw that happen with the kings, and then I feel like on a lower scale level, we're starting to see that in America right now of like trying not. Okay, this is going to cause like a whole, but
No.
people.
Let's not do that.
It's happening now too.
Well, history repeats itself. What we learn from history is that we don't learn from history.
But I like how you said that the church is meant to be like the moral compass of things, and it's hard when power gets mixed in there.
Well, whenever you control people's belief systems, power and control are not far behind.
Yeah.
Like in corruption, it's just.
And it
What
happens.
happens?
It happens outside of religion as well.
No. It's
Obviously, the Egyptians were
governments.
clearly not
All governments are built on that.
Christian or Jewish faith at that time period, but you can still see how like religious influence gained power and would control the society, and then people rising up against that, or vice versa. I think that's more of the angle I was trying to take, is that you're even seeing it happening kind of right now.
Yeah. No, it's a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting, the next one, with our kids raised fully integrated with technology and how that changes. But that's it.
But before we wrap it up, how you said that you were excited that they got to see that side of me, like how excited I get about that. You get that way about coins, and I like that too. I kind of tease him about the coins because he teases himself about the coins, but it's not something at all that I look down on, because I'm a dork when it comes to ancient civilizations.
Yeah.
I like seeing your eyes glow and you telling the story behind it and showing people and sharing it with people. I think that's exciting when people have passions in their life and that they're able to share it with others, to share that excitement. And
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
yeah.
But I'll look forward to seeing how our passions change in the future, and then looking back on this little
I want to go to a museum
video.
now.
And, yeah, well, we will eventually, soon. Well, I hope you have a good day.
Yay.
Be kind.
Egypt.
I gotta walk over there. Turn it off.
Did you know?
See ya.